Good evening. In a world obsessed with wealth, we constantly hear about the richest individuals of our time: tech moguls, business magnates, financial titans. But what about the titans of fortune throughout history? Who truly stands as the wealthiest person to have ever walked the earth? The answer is far more complex and astounding than you might imagine. Tonight, we embark on a journey through time, delving into the lives of individuals whose riches were so vast, they defy modern comprehension. We'll explore why quantifying richest across millennia is a fascinating, yet challenging, endeavor, and uncover the 5 leading contenders for this unparalleled title. Before we name names, we must address the fundamental challenge: how do you compare the wealth of a medieval emperor, whose riches were measured in gold mines and entire kingdoms, to a 19th century industrialist whose fortune was tied to corporate monopolies, or a modern tech billionaire whose net worth fluctuates with stock prices? Inflation, GDP, control over resources, and sheer political power all blur the lines. We're not just talking about liquid cash, we're talking about effective control over vast economic engines. Our first, and perhaps most legendary, contender hails from 14th century West Africa, Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire. Born in 1280, Musa inherited a kingdom whose primary resources were gold and salted commodities that were the backbone of medieval trade. His empire stretched across a significant portion of West Africa, controlling trade routes and vast gold mines that supplied half the world's gold at the time. Musa's wealth was so immense it became legendary during his lifetime. The most famous account is his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. He traveled with an entourage of tens of thousands of soldiers, civilians, slaves, and heralds dressed in silks, accompanied by hundreds of camels, each laden with hundreds of pounds of pure gold. Accounts claim he built mosques every Friday, and his generosity was so great that when he passed through Cairo, he distributed so much gold that he inadvertently devalued the metal, causing an economic crisis in the region that lasted for a decade. Economists and historians struggle to put a modern figure on his wealth, but many suggest it was truly incalculable, controlling a source of wealth so vast that it directly impacted global markets. He wasn't just rich, he controlled the world's supply of a key commodity. Fast forward to the industrial age, and we encounter 2 titans of American industry whose fortunes dwarf even today's richest individuals when adjusted for economic context. Our second contender is John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil. Born in 1839, Rockefeller built an oil empire that, at its peak, controlled 90% of all oil production and refining in the United States. His ruthless business practices and relentless pursuit of efficiency allowed him to amass a fortune estimated to be around $1.5 billion in 1918. While that number might sound modest compared to today's multi-hundred billionaires, context is everything. At its peak, Rockefeller's wealth was equivalent to about 2% of the entire U.S. GDP. To put that into modern perspective, if Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk achieved that percentage of today's U.S. GDP, their net worth would be closer to $400 billion. Rockefeller's monopoly gave him immense power, effectively controlling an entire vital industry that fueled a nation's growth. His philanthropic efforts in later life, particularly in medicine and education, were also unparalleled, distributing vast sums to public causes. Our third contender from the same era is Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate. A Scottish immigrant who built the Carnegie Steel Company, he revolutionized the industry and eventually sold it to J.P. Morgan in 1901 for $480 million, at the time, the largest industrial deal in U.S. history. This single transaction, when adjusted for inflation and a percentage of U.S. GDP, would place his wealth in a similar league to Rockefeller's, estimated by some to be around $300 to $370 billion in today's dollars. Carnegie's story is one of classic rags to riches, but what truly distinguished him was his philosophy on wealth, famously outlined in his Gospel of Wealth. He believed that the rich had a moral obligation to use their fortunes to improve society. He spent the latter part of his life giving away virtually all of his money, establishing libraries, universities, and peace organizations. His philanthropic legacy arguably outshines his raw wealth, but the scale of his fortune during his lifetime was undeniably staggering. Beyond these prominent figures, history offers other compelling contenders, whose wealth was often inseparable from the empires they ruled. Consider Augustus Caesar, the first Roman emperor. His personal fortune was estimated at one-fifth of the entire Roman Empire's economy, an empire that controlled vast swaths of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. While not liquid cash in a bank account, his effective control over such immense resources and the power to tax and command entire regions makes him a contender for unimaginable wealth. Similarly, Akbar the Great, the 16th-century Mughal emperor of India, ruled over an empire that produced an astonishing quarter of the world's economic output. His personal treasury was overflowing with precious jewels, gold, and vast landholdings. His wealth was a reflection of the prosperity and productivity of the enormous domain he commanded. Then there's Jacob Fugger the Rich, a 15th to 16th century German merchant and banker. Through mining, trade, and banking, he amassed a fortune that made him the richest man in Europe, financing emperors and popes, and establishing a financial dynasty. His estimated wealth, relative to the GDP of his time, rivals that of Rockefeller and Carnegie in their respective eras. So, where do today's billionaires like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk stand in this historical context? While their absolute wealth in current dollars is astounding, reaching hundreds of billions, their percentage of global or national GDP is significantly smaller than that of a Rockefeller or, especially, a Mansa Musa. The sheer scale of the global economy today means that even the richest individuals command a smaller proportion of total wealth compared to historical figures who effectively owned or controlled entire industries or even empires. The stories of the richest individuals in world history are not just tales of immense personal fortune, they are narratives about power, influence, and the very fabric of global economies. They demonstrate how wealth, in various forms, has always been inextricably linked to political control, technological advancement, and societal structure. These figures, whether through divine right, entrepreneurial genius, or sheer military might, wielded resources that shaped continents and influenced the course of civilization. Pinpointing the single richest person in world history remains an academic debate, complicated by the shifting definitions of wealth across eras. But whether it was Mansa Musa's gold, Rockefeller's oil, or Augustus Caesar's empire, these individuals represent the zenith of human accumulation and control. Their legacies remind us of the enduring power of fortune and the staggering scale of wealth that can be accumulated when circumstance, ingenuity, and opportunity converge in truly extraordinary ways. The debate over who truly holds the crown of history's wealthiest will undoubtedly continue.